I do hear you.
Okay,
we might
good.
have a. Oh, that's good. Do we have a delay? So one.
I hope we keep this in. Oh, baby, there he is. I mean, who cares about me? I know I'm Chris Simms Unbuttoned podcast, but look at this triple threat over here. Ahmed Fareed playing the introduction music, hosting the show, in charge of all these graphics. I mean, you're recording this right now. I mean, you're the man. You're like the #1 player on the NFL top 100 list, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what? I mean, whoa, Lamar Jackson. Holy cow.
Yeah.
You're dangerous.
It's like there's another list out there that can get more hate. It can take the pressure off your top 10 wide receiver list, which is really good.
Yes.
It's really good for you.
It can.
Yeah. We got a good one here. You're right. My mind is like going a million miles an hour because I've got to control the graphics here. We've got special guests coming in today for the first time, Chris. We're gonna get to see your dad's face, and he is going to click a link and be here with us. He's going to join us here in like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. This is the first time. You're right. We're going to see that face. He's going to have to connect to this link on his iPad. I don't know what's going to happen. And what I'm really most concerned about is I hope he wears some makeup, because us in the Simms family, we have greasy skin. I have oily skin. And if I don't apply makeup, we can look real shiny. And that's what I'm afraid of, is he's going to come on there probably with sunscreen on, even though he hasn't been outside yet. Probably has 50 on, and he's going to be all greasy and crazy.
You're looking pretty good right now.
Well,
I'm a little greased up. It's hot. It's like 90 degrees here in Connecticut for like the past week, and it's super hot in here. And then you called me out last pod on my sweaty pits, which were really bad. And so I've worn a purple shirt today. I'm hoping it hides the pit stains a little bit more, but I don't know that it will.
No, I don't know if it will either. But we'll be checking in on your pits towards the end of this podcast to see where they're at. So don't you worry.
No, I have multiple shirts here right next to me. All right, let's get right into it. So we'll do an Ask Me Anything through this whole pod, and then your dad will join up and he'll help answer some of these questions.
Great.
And we got a lot about what you talked about in our last podcast, specifically about that Seattle scheme. But let me start with Jamal Adams, more reaction to the big trade and what you said about it. This one comes from the Amidi, and he says, that was a tough one right off the bat. He says, does the Adams trade push the Hawks ahead of the 49ers in the NFC West? So does that one move, which you said was a big move for them, maybe increases their Super Bowl potential just a little bit more, does that push them ahead of the 49ers, you think?
No, I don't think it does. I think it, certainly closes the gap to a degree. When you add a player like Jamal Adams of that caliber, as versatile as he is and as talented as he is. I mean, again, hey, listen, you've heard me say it's the best safety in football. And just to kind of, get some backup here. Guys like Rodney Harrison, yesterday he comes on PFT with me and Mike Florio, and he goes, oh, no, this is a Hall of Fame talent. This is a special player. So I think that says, first off, yes, they're going to be better because you got a guy like that at the second level next to two other freaky guys and KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner. So certainly that's going to make them better on the defensive side of the ball. But I don't think it closes the gap completely with the 49ers. The 49ers, between Shanahan and Lynch and what they've done there, and then Trent Baalke and a few of his, leftover players, they have some damn good roster. And it's hard to find really a weak spot on that roster right now. So, I mean, the Seahawks, super talented, certainly can compete and beat the Niners. But I don't think I look at the roster as quite as talented, yet.
Yeah, 49ers have such a good thing going right there. Not all the drafts for John Lynch have been, knockout. You got Solomon Thomas, you missed up there at the top of that draft, but they just extended Lynch again. They previously did that with Kyle. It just seems like, I don't know if Kyle talks to you about it at all, but the 49ers and the way they've constructed that team, they've got such a good relationship, and it seems like it's built on trust. I mean, they came in together. It seems like when it's over, they'll eventually leave together almost.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, they got a good thing working together. I say this all the time. The good teams in football, and I went through this on the show today, I mean, when you look at the top teams in the AFC, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, what do they have? Front office stability with a great head coach. It all meshes together, all on the same page.
Yeah.
You go to the NFC, 49ers, New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles, Minnesota Vikings, all these teams that are in the playoffs conversation every year, and yet they have that GM, head coach on the same page, know where the organization's going. And yeah, Shanahan's a mastermind, as anyone would know and listen to the podcast last week. But then when you're a mastermind and you have a guy who, first off, has an eye for talent and then also has an eye of experience in John Lynch, where he can go, wait, I know what a Hall of Fame middle linebacker looks like. I know what a Hall of Fame, defensive tackle looks like. So off of that, he can also understand what Kyle's vision is and figure out what kind of players that would fit that vision. And that's where it's awesome. And, Solomon Thomas wasn't good. I get it. But, Fred Warner was good. George Kittle was good. Some of the other guys, they've done a lot of value signings there, or value draft picks in the mid-rounds, and then also have killed it with some great free agency signings too. So, they messed up that Solomon Thomas one, but that 49er team is set up for a run right now, for sure.
Yeah, the 49ers more complete a team maybe overall than Seattle, but Seattle becoming more complete. You said that they needed that Kam Chancellor type with Jamal Adams. They got it. And this question comes from Rob 808 Ert that says, loved your Seattle D scheme breakdown where you went through what makes it so good and what can make it so good, what makes it vulnerable, but also if you got the players for it, makes it tough to crack. He says, what are the chancellors of those 7 teams? So the other 7 teams that you mentioned, like the Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, Indianapolis Colts, the Chargers, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Seattle. Can you, off the top of your head, can you think who the Kam Chancellors are from some of those other teams?
Yeah, well, it's easy. Like the Chargers, it's Derwin James, right? That's why they drafted him at, pick 18 or the top 20 picks, because they were looking for that guy. The Atlanta Falcons, it's Keanu O'Neal. Now, he was hurt last year, and you want to know why their defense, falls off? It's because they're missing that kind of guy. The Dallas Cowboys, for years we're looking for that guy too. Remember all these years we've heard them in the safety conversation for a trade and everything. Well, they were running the Seattle scheme. That's why they were looking for it. That's why they were in the conversation with Jamal Adams. Even last year, people were kind of throwing that out there. But, all right, so but those ones are special, okay? Now, when you start to talk about, Cleveland, yeah, I don't think they have that guy yet. Not yet. No, they're probably going to try to figure it out here on the fly. This is a new system for them, so they don't have all the pieces. They got the front 4. That's exciting. Pretty good linebackers, so that's good too. But, yeah, I don't think they have that free safety combination that'll make that special yet. The Colts, I would argue the same thing. They haven't found that guy too. I mean, the Colts are a really great, unbelievable constructed roster. But if you ask me the weakest part of their team, I would tell you it's their secondary, and that's where they're missing out. They don't have a lockdown man-to-man corner, really. Kenny Moore is the only guy that can even get in that conversation. And then, the safety position, they just haven't worked yet. Malik Hooker, first-round pick from Ohio State, hasn't quite worked out. He's been injured. So there's that. We know who Seattle's is. Who else am I missing here? What are the 2 teams have I missed or not hit on?
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you, the San Francisco and
San Francisco's Jaquiski Tart, right? Who's I think a very underrated player.
You like a lot. Yeah.
I do. I like Jaquiski Tart. I mean, because, again, he's not a superstar, but he's a really, really good, strong safety who can play the run really well and is good in the pass game. So, you can't have it all always, but he's certainly good enough for them to go, okay, we don't have our Kam Chancellor, all right, but we got a really damn good player there, and we got a Bobby Wagner, and we got our, Nick Bosa as a deep forwarder. We got this great pass rush too, so they're a little more rich in that department maybe than in the safety department. But they have Jimmy Ward there in 49erville too, which he's their Earl Thomas, and I think he's a hell of a player too. So I think. Was that it, or did I miss one other team? Did
you do Jacksonville? Did I miss Jacksonville? Yeah.
No, and Jacksonville's another one. I think that they're in the phase of, okay, we got to find out who that guy is. They got some young guys who they like down there, certainly. But a few years ago, that's why they signed Barry Church and Tashawn Gibson Jr. Remember that? Barry Church was their Kam Chancellor when they went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Patriots. So, that would be my assessment of those right now. But the really special ones are Neal, Derwin James, Jamal Adams. Those three stand apart. Those three could be in the conversation for the best safeties in football every year here for a long, long time. And then you got a guy like Jaquaski Tard who's really good and will probably flirt with a lot of Pro Bowls or just miss out and stuff like that.
So you may want to run as a defensive coordinator, as a head coach, you may want to run the Seattle scheme. But if you don't have that Kam Chancellor type player, like you say, the Colts don't really have, Browns don't have, Jacksonville, I mean, should you? Should you run it if you don't have? It seems like such a crucial spot of that defense. I know it wasn't the most crucial position when you went through all the different linebacker was the biggest spot for it. But should these teams even be running it without that kind of player?
Yeah, they should. They should. Again, this is something they're in the process of trying to find it. And let's not forget too, what made Seattle like really special at that time is the scheme was new to the league, and then they killed it in the draft, and like the personnel fit exactly to the scheme. So it was amazing that way. I think like the Colts, hey, they got their Bobby Wagner and their KJ Wright and Darius Leonard and Mack, the other guy. And then, of course, the pass rush, I think, is going to be, really good. And they got their DeForest Buckner in the middle now and all that. But, yeah, they haven't found the other pieces yet. And it's not always easy. If it was that easy, everybody would have one. But, Keanu Neal, Derwin James, and Jamal Adams, they're special. And there's a reason those guys were drafted, in the first round, top 20 picks.
Let's wrap up the 49ers and the Seattle scheme defense talk, and one neat little bow here, because this question comes from Andrew Holly 12. He said, what defensive scheme would you select for the 49ers, and who would you have run it? So Kyle, obviously high on this scheme that you have knocked lately. Although we've talked about the Seattle D so much lately here, maybe you're starting to turn a new leaf. Maybe you've talked yourself into it from talking to Kyle the last week here. But what kind of defense would you choose for the 49ers, and who do you think is the ideal guy to head the coordination of it?
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, Kyle certainly made me think. I don't think it's going to change me completely. I would still, if we were not on a podcast or anything, argue with them that it's just a little too comforting for quarterbacks at times. But they're talented and they can get away with it, like we said. Now, when you get into the schemes I like that I think I'm big into right now with the NFL, you got to be multiple and you got to be able to be very versatile in your attack, especially if you're a team that doesn't have a lot of talent. That's where I would say. So I look at my man Wink Martindale of the Baltimore Ravens. That would be number one that I would say, I love that system. It's got everything. They can play sound defense and play very bland and simple, but they can do things where you just go, wait, I don't know what fucking defense this is, or what are they doing here? Or, they voided an area. That's not safe, but it's a calculated voiding of an area to where, they might get you in a formation and through their breakdowns have realized, whoa, when they get the three receivers on the right and one receiver on the left, they never throw the ball to the short middle, right? Or something like that. Yeah. And they might just void it and then just do something crazy. That's not sound, but it was a calculated risk they're willing to take to go, well, your numbers show you only threw the ball like 1 out of 100 times right in that area, in that formation. So we'll do that. Like that to me, and then of course they can play man to man. It just has every defense under the sun to me. And that would be the perfect scheme for me.
We got questions on the NFL Top 100. We got one on Davante Adams here. Some more shade being your way. We got one on some offense here, but I think we need some company for this conversation. You think that's a good idea?
Is he here? Can he do this? Is this possible?
So we'll see. So I see a little picture down in the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to move my mouse over. This is going to break our background. We don't really have a 3-box background for us, but we're going to do it anyway. So here we go. Let's see if it works.
Let's see.
All right.
Oh, here he comes.
Hello.
Oh,
Phil, can you hear us?
He did it.
Yeah, listen, I'm listening to Ahmed here. He's like, oh, my background, this, that. I mean, Hey, this is not a beauty contest. Let's just get it out there.
What do you mean? I got my lighting over here.
Your lighting's great. Whatever you got behind you looks good. Christopher's in a white room, and I'm in my office, which has no light. But you see, I got a little halo around me. I like that. I just noticed that. It's the curtains. Yeah. So this is all I got. So this is what I'm going with. And when I do these, which I've done, listen, I laugh when this is over. I've done so many Zooms and live streaming and all that. I said, man, I want to meet the person that invented this because I was slapping when it's over. This off season, it's been crazy, but it's been fun. It really has.
You're gonna wear your old man glasses for this one? I mean, I would love it if you did. I saw.
Well, I wear them on all the Zoom calls now or anything. But I wear them. I'm going to wear glasses this year on CBS at times.
Okay.
But these are readers, so they're a little strong when I put them on for you. But what happened to me, Ahmed, so many times, I would have 3 points to talk about on anything. And I go number one and boom. And I say number two. And I want to look down and see real quick just to make sure of number three. But I look down at my paper and I can't read a word. And I just go, okay. And then I make something up, whatever. So I'm not going to get caught like that anymore.
I mean, I think you do what you got to do, right? Use the tools that are available to you. That's what I've always said.
Everybody's wearing glasses. Everybody wears glasses and doesn't even need them. And but oh well. But hey, good stuff about what you guys. There you go.
Will that make you feel more comfortable if I just do that? I'll just go right with you here.
Well, I don't know. It kind of changed your whole personality, those glasses.
It does. You're right. I do become a different person a little bit.
It didn't even look like you. That was great.
Dad, what was you going to say there about our conversation? You heard us talking about Seattle and that type of stuff?
Yeah, lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. San Francisco's playing the right defense. Why? Because they are loaded all across the board. They have probably the fastest defense in the NFL. So when you got the fastest defense in the NFL, let's let them be fast and not think too much. Baltimore, they're like New England. They're multiple. I don't know who's standing up at linebacker, who's the tackle, who's the DN, because, hell, they all look the same. And I was just looking at their roster yesterday going, the Baltimore Ravens, I would think from top to bottom, boy, this is tough to say.
It's all right. We said it just last week. Yeah.
They got the best roster in football. Yeah. And then, I said it. So San Francisco, it's really good. But Baltimore has depth almost everywhere, too, which is really, really amazing.
Yeah, agreed, Dad. We had this conversation last week. We had one of the homies from the podcast asked about who has the most talented roster. He thought it was the Ravens. I can't remember who asked us. But, yeah, when you dive into it, I think that's the big thing. You're right. There's really no weak spot. They got all big people, good. And then they got some superstars and depth, like you said.
No, sorry. They added more speed to the team again, which I think they really needed. At linebacker, even some of the later picks, edge rushers, they did it with Devin Duvernay. You remembered the Texas wide receiver. I think I saw you this morning.
I couldn't think of him today. I know.
But he truly is. He was a steal in the draft. Oh, my gosh. Right. So, right? The Ravens got Duvernay, right?
Yeah.
No. You were Baltimore. You were right with Duvernay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I really liked him a lot, so I thought that was a great steal and a great fit for them. But go ahead. What else we got?
Then you throw Justin Tucker on there, and that blows it out of the water, which it really kind of does when you throw in all three phases of offense, defense, and special teams, which Harbaugh is always focused on. All right, this is coming from KC Ranger. Oh. It's about Patrick Mahomes here, Phil. I'll let you respond to this first here. The question is, with the NFL Top 100 being all player voted, why do you think his peers had Patrick Mahomes ranked as the number 3 quarterback? So the top 10 just came out. Number 1 was Lamar Jackson. Number 2 was Russell Wilson. Number 3 was Aaron Donald. And then number 4 overall was Patrick Mahomes. What do you make of that, Phil?
Well, here's what I make about that top 100 list. Why do we give it so much attention? I mean, come on, the players are voting on it. I've been in that room. I can't imagine it's changed much. Christopher, you were in that room for all these voting things. And guys, hey, look, a lot of guys don't even follow the league. They play, but they don't know who's doing well in other teams. They don't even know they just don't do it that. They just do their job. So guys voting, just like for All-Pro, they have no clue, had great years across the board, whatever, things like that. So you need people to tell you, do what to do. So, man, there's so much to do about this list. And the players, of course, take it personal. But let's just remember, the voting's not really, I'm going to sit here and spend a couple of days researching and making sure I pick the right guys. That's not the way it is.
Yeah, Ahmed, I think that, Dad hit the first big point. Everybody just thinks because – oh, you play football, you must be in the weeds in football and everything that, it entails. And that's just not true. I say, like, if there's 53 guys in a locker room, those last 23, like the 30 guys pay attention to the league. Then there's 23 who, like Dad said, they just play and then they go home and watch a movie or play Xbox. They don't watch Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night. They don't even know what's going on in the league. And I think that's hard for people to realize sometimes, let alone, like Dad's saying, the process is flawed. It's a weird process. My last year in 2010, I was with the Tennessee Titans. There's only like 15, 20 guys on a team that get to do the voting. And it's like picked out by like the main PR guy in that for that organization. He just puts it on people's lockers. And I can remember in 2010 going like, they're letting this guy vote on who the top 20 players. He doesn't know who the top 5 players on our team are, and he's going to vote on that. So, yeah, it's a flawed process. And, prisoner of the moment. Lamar Jackson, MVP. This is done during, like, week 12 or 13 of the regular season. So Mahomes wasn't healthy and dealing with that. I bet you if they changed the voting to after the Super Bowl, it'd be a little different. You're right. But, nonetheless, just because they're playing – like Lawrence Taylor's the greatest player Dad ever played with. I don't know. Maybe Dad can correct me. I don't think Lawrence was going home and watching Sunday night and Monday night football. I don't know that, but I'm just taking a guess there.
I'll give you one hint. We're on the plane coming back from Seattle, and I said, man, we could be first in our division and this and that. And he goes, and he didn't even know who the other divisions were. We had to tell him what team. He goes, really? Okay. Like, he didn't even care. Right. I said, well, who we're playing again, whatever. He knew the important games, but no, he did not follow the sport. That's for sure.
I almost wonder if it's a function of, Lamar Jackson makes so many people look silly, from defensive linemen to linebackers to cornerbacks. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, he makes your team look silly and he makes huge plays against your team, but that's mostly exposing maybe the corners. I wonder if that's part of it too, that Lamar Jackson just makes so many people look silly out there that they're like, yeah, I don't like playing against that guy at all. He's number 1 on my list. I don't know if that's part of it. Maybe.
Well, I think you're right. Christopher, I didn't know they do this voting that early during the season, which is, that's another, why do we got to do that? But that's one thing. I would love to see it voted on by coaches and general managers. Just to see how they do it. And of course, then it'll get out. Well, this coach did, somebody somewhere will get it out there. But, talking about Lamar Jackson, he was such an unbelievable weapon and player through that period. But just to change the subject just a little bit.
Sure.
Who do you think has a lot of pressure on him? The regular season is one thing, but everything changes in the postseason. And, the Baltimore Ravens, 2 straight years, have lost, and Lamar Jackson didn't play his best in those 2 games. Now, everybody's going to say, well, he had over 500 yards against the Tennessee Titans in total yardage. But, it really defines the word empty yards when you talk about that. Yeah. So, and it was the first time, I know I've said this to you guys before, that I saw him sit on the bench and have a little bit like, I just can't believe this is me. I saw it in his face, and I had never seen that from him in his college or pro career. So this is, man, when it gets playoff time, that's going to be the number 1 story, I think, about Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Chris, there was a question out there that I don't think we wrote it down here, but I saw when I was perusing through the Twitter mentions that kind of compared him, Lamar Jackson, to James Harden in a way that is probably not fair, but this idea that, James Harden can beat up on the bad teams and his stuff works in the regular season. But then when you really get down to it, to the best 4 teams in football, they're going to have the players and they're going to have the scheme to be able to neutralize a guy like James Harden. Is there any truth that way of thinking could go over to Lamar Jackson and that the best 4 teams always will have an answer for that kind of player?
Well, I think there is some truth. I understand the comparison being made there. You know, I think you saw it the last 2 years, like what Dad's explained it. The Chargers, the Tennessee Titans, you know, the Chargers had seen it already in the regular season, so they were ready to go. The Titans are smart. They were big, so they could physically, you know, match up. And playoff football, you know, defensive coordinators and coaches are just willing to go all in on taking things away. Or, ooh, we're going to do this week because if we don't stop this, we're going to be at home watching the game next week. So we got to take a chance. Maybe it's not sound, or maybe we'll be vulnerable to this. But, man, if we let Lamar Jackson just go around the edge for 10 yards every time, it doesn't matter. We're going home. And, yeah, I think there is an element of that. And that's why I made Lamar Jackson my number 4 quarterback in my quarterback rankings. That's the last piece of the puzzle we got to see. You know, it's cool when you're running around and making people miss, and that's why he was the number 1 player, I think, Ahmed, because you hit it. He's highlight tapes. You don't have to watch games. You just saw the numbers and the highlights. You went, damn, he's awesome. But I think ultimately, if they're going to go to that next round of the playoffs or get to the Final Four, the Super Bowl, his game will have to grow a little bit as a pocket passer, because I don't think the great defenses, once you get into that, you know, divisional round or get into the championship game, they're not going to be overpowered or fooled by some of the things that, like you're saying, in the regular season might work for the Ravens. And I think that's where his pocket passing and being a little more polished there will come in handy.
So the vote by the players had him as the number 1. Phil, your son had a vote for his top 10 wide receivers that created a lot of controversy. Got the wide receivers in the NFL talking with each other, getting mad at each other out there. One of the players he left off, Phil, was Davante Adams. And this question comes from Wade Oliver 03. He said, I understand Davante Adams has Rodgers throwing him the ball, but what about in 2017 when Rodgers broke his collarbone and Adams proved he can succeed with Hundley as well? So Adams in those 8 games started by Brett Hundley had 543 yards and 5 touchdowns back in 2017. So was your son incorrect in leaving off Davante Adams from his top 10 wide receivers in the NFL list?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. Whoever makes up the top 10 list, it doesn't matter who he is. I don't care if we get 3 Hall of Fame wide receivers. They're going to screw it up. I mean, it's just it's too easy to debate it. Wide receivers, man, you know, when you talk about wide receivers, you know, that it seems to come along with the position. They're going to really be involved in everything that's going on, social media and talking and all that. So I understand it. It's always a big debate. But it just kind of shows you the great depth of receivers in the NFL. It's like quarterbacks. It's just going to keep going up. They're all over the place in college. So he is I'm not saying Christopher's right or wrong, because I didn't study as hard as he did to do it. But I know this. I watched Davante Adams from his rookie year for those first couple years. It was a little struggle. People, oh, he can't play. And, you know, he has really turned out to be, what was he, a 2nd-round pick?
Yep, 2nd-round pick out of Fresno State.
He's turned out to be, you know, he's a little bit of everything. He can break it.
Right.
He's big, strong. I mean, he's that guy you sit out there by himself as a wide receiver, terrific player. So, man, don't get so upset over these lists. You know, if I was a player, you know, who cares? You know who you are, and I know Aaron Rodgers loves him. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, he's a really damn good player. I mean, I'll go back to what I said when we were talking about this last week. It's just there's 20 top 10 receivers in football. That's the problem. Dad could look at a list, and the guy I had at 15, he might put at 7. And I'd go, I get it. I understand. I mean, I'm not going to be pissed at somebody if they put Davante Adams or, you know, Kenny Galladay or Jarvis Landry in the top 10 and I didn't have him. I understand, but that was my damn top 10. And that's how the way I saw Davante Adams. And then, you know, listen, that question, I understand what he's going to say. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Davante Adams, but I'd like a little more time to go back and research those 5 games and see, you know, how many of those yards were during the competitive balance of the game and how many of them were garbage time, like, oh, we're losing by 14 and there's 3 minutes left and I racked up 50 or 60 yards. Now, you know, it didn't lead to a whole lot of wins. I know that when it was Brett Hundley and Davante Adams. So that's what I would argue there too. But I'm certainly, I don't want to crap on Davante Adams. I like him. Come on. It's my favorite quarterback's go-to receiver. I like him. But I'm just trying to say I don't think he's a top 10 guy.
Yeah, and we mentioned it too last time, Phil, that when people crushed Chris for his top 10, they did their own top 10, and they would include like 15 in their top 10. They had a hard time.
Really?
hard time paring it down. Yeah, it was very difficult.
You know what it is? Listen, what you do, both of you do for a living, and that's what it's about. You put out these lists because you know it's going to create a big stir, and people go crazy on Twitter and everywhere. And, of course, when you talk about certain teams, Davante Adams, let's see, he's in Green Bay. Man, Green Bay is a national football team, and their fans, I'm not even going to say they live and die it because that undersells it. Whatever the most rabid college football team following is out there, Green Bay's is bigger than that. And I think that's saying something.
Yeah, Chris got the clicks he was looking for. That's
shut up.
All right, this one comes from Nick Rodriguez podcast, and this is good. I'm really curious to hear what both of you guys think of that. Chris, we'll start with you on this one. If you were going to be an OC, which two offensive minds would you take from? So you can take from a couple offensive minds, past or present, I guess. Who would you take half of a brain from, and who would you take the other half of the brain from, Chris?
Oh, just offense, right? We're just talking the offensive guy.
Just offense, yeah, just offense.
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know the three guys that I hold in higher regard than everybody else. And that's Shanahan.
Let me try to guess. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan, Sean Payton,
right.
Josh McDaniels.
That's it. So I know this is what's good. I'm going to have to leave one of those guys off.
Ooh. Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Reid's there too.
Andy's up in there. Come on.
I know. You're right. Yeah. I know. No doubt. I'm going to go with Shanahan. I mean, one, I think, again, I know I'm biased. I get it. But I've had a lot of conversations with Josh, too. I mean, Kyle just is fearless, creative, and does it like through an old school type of offense of, I formation, play action passes, that run game. And not to say that the other guys can't do that either. I just think Shanahan's the best at that. And then, man, I think I'm going to go with Josh McDaniels. I know that sounds crazy, right? But just knowing the New England offense, it's just got more to it than any offense I've ever known. And there's more versatility to it in every aspect of it. So if you could give me Shanahan's run game and play action passes with McDaniels' ability to mix and match personnels and spread the field and have 9 million ways to find a 6-yard completion, shit, nobody will stop that offense.
What do you think, Phil?
Well, I think I'm definitely taking Kyle Shanahan because of his run ingenuity and what they do, and it's something they can repeat. It's not so complicated maybe as the Baltimore Ravens. And what did Joe Thomas? I told you this story. Joe Thomas said Kyle Shanahan comes to Cleveland. He's gets up in front of the team. He goes, look, we're going to run the ball from one sideline to the other. We're going to cover the whole field running the football. And Joe Thomas, he goes, I've never heard a coach, an offensive coordinator, say anything like that. He goes, anybody can throw it, but we're going to run it. So that's always stuck with me. When I watch him, I see it. I'm taking Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton is just the best when it comes to just making it easy for the quarterback, formations, keeping you off balance, whatever it is, and just continuously week in and week out, throw the football with success. I think I told you this story. He goes, when the best time is to throw a flea flicker? And I don't know, I said something after you run it 6 times. And his answer was, he goes, the best time to run a flea flicker, if you're around midfield, if you have a holding call, and it's 1st and 20. What does every team do? They run a draw or a screen to try to get back in the thing. He goes, that's the time you run the flea flicker because they're all going to bite on the run. And I went, wow, I'm not going to say I agree with it, but it was out of the box thinking. He does things like that. And I'm telling you the truth. I saw him do it in a game after he told me this at the Pro Bowl one year. And it worked. So, I think Sean Payton just knows how to get guys open with formations, and his depth of drop back passing game. Christopher is much deeper, I think, than right now the New England Patriots have. That's why I take Sean Payton.
And I love seeing coaches that can go out there and evolve too. Kyle's kind of come in with his idea of what he wants to do, and it's not like he hasn't evolved with the different systems he's been in. But a guy like Sean Payton or Josh McDaniels, to see them change what they do, it's so easy to say, like, we've had success with this, we're going to keep doing this from now until forever. But it's fun to watch those guys to change and mix things up. Can you guys do it on the defensive side? Can you guys think of two minds on the defensive side that you'd like to mash together if you were to make a robotic?
Well, we know we're taking Belichick. I mean, I'm taking Belichick, you know. I mean, that's one of them.
That's okay. We know one is that's it. He's one.
Now it goes into, crap. I mean, this is where it's tough, where I go into, Sean McDermott with the Buffalo Bills, Wink Martindale with the Baltimore Ravens, who we've talked about. Gosh, Vic Fangio out in Denver. Holy crap. This is actually might be harder than the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I'm a fan of Chuck Pagano and what he does in Chicago. You know, there's a lot, you know, Mike Zimmer. But okay, I'm going Belichick. And then, you know, I think I'll go Vic Fangio for as long as he's been doing it, and just that pure 3-4. And it's not always about tricks. It's about being sound. And he knows what defenses to call to certain formations and personnel sets. I'll take him.
Good pick. I covered Vic Fangio, my gosh, 20-some years ago when I first met him. And he was the blitz king of the NFL.
Right.
When in doubt, just blitz everybody. I mean, corners blitzing. He did back-to-back plays. It was crazy. And then now he's turned into this opposite. So you talk about evolving. This guy has done it. And I had a couple of head coaches tell me they hired a coordinator and they were mad as hell because they wanted Vic Fangio and they couldn't get him or whatever. And I go, well, the guy you got's pretty good. Yeah, have you looked at Fangio's defense? Well, of course, not like you have, Coach. But excuse me. But my other pick will be, just saying it about Vic Fangio, I'm going to take Sean McDermott up in Buffalo. What they do, how they do it, it's different game in and game out. I don't think he quite has that overriding talent to do it, but also he has Leslie Frazier sitting there as his defensive coordinator. Two of them together, their defense is just really, really smart. It reminds me, not the same style, but it reminds me of Seattle at their heyday. I mean, they had football players on the field everywhere that were really smart football guys. I mean, man, they had 7 or 8 guys out there that they're just going, don't worry, Coach, we got it. We'll take care of the calls and win the game on defense. I mean, that's how smart they were with that secondary and even some of the guys up front.
Yeah. Both agreeing on Bill Belichick, though, is half of that brain for the defensive coordinator. And here's a question from Latino NFL that talks about Belichick as the coach. He goes, does Bill Belichick, the coach, save Bill Belichick, the GM, more often than we realize? For example, the Chandler Jones trade was a huge mistake, but because the Pats have won 2 Super Bowls after it, we don't see it like that. That's an interesting question. Because we often credit Bill Belichick for being able to do it all, but do you think the coach has to do a little bit more because the GM doesn't always make the right move?
Oh, well, okay, I'll answer this first. First off, did we get confirmation that the Chandler Jones thing wasn't a good trade? I mean, I don't know. They traded him, and would they go to the Super Bowl 3 out of the 4 years after that? So I don't know. Yeah. I would throw the challenge flag out there and go, yes, I know they lost one of the better pass rushers in football, but within maybe not sacrificing huge money and $18 million a year to pay him, maybe that's why they had, Kyle Van Noy and Danny Shelton and all these other guys on their roster that made their defense good. So I get what the question is, though. I do. I understand that because there was a period in time there in the early 2000s and things where, Belichick, the GM, and some of the picks they made in the draft at wide receiver, DB, and things like that didn't work out. I mean, they've had some bad first and second round picks that, it didn't look good. But, the thing I would argue, too, in some of those years where you go, the first and second round pick wasn't good, I'd go, yeah, but the 4th round pick was good. The 5th round pick was good. The 7th round pick was good. There's 3 undrafted guys on their team who were starting. So he would save himself with that stuff, too. And I think the last few years he's been very good in the draft. Last 4 or 5 years, I think he's pretty much knocked it out. So I understand the question, but there's a bigger thing here at play with New England always. It's not about one player. It's about building a team. I always say that, and he's obsessed with that.
I'm great at building the team, and here's what he does. He takes the team and makes sure it's not one injury away from disaster.
Right.
Just like the Detroit Lions. They lose Matthew Stafford, it's over. So even the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, they're going to have that backup quarterback good enough and ready enough to make sure their team doesn't fall apart. So that's what he's done. He drafts, and again, he did it again this year. Is the guy going to be an outside linebacker, a defensive end, a middle linebacker, or even once in a while, probably put his hand on the ground inside? I don't know. They've done it with multiple guys with the draft picks the last couple of years. He knew this was coming. He was going to lose Kyle Van Noy. Chandler Jones, hey, there were some issues with things he did up there. We won't go into those. But it came down to this too. Did they trust him enough to pay him? And that's where they always make their decisions. And right now they trusted Stephon Gilmore. They paid him. Now, how's that worked out? Man, I mean, that's one of the greatest free agent pickups and signings. It looked like a lot of money when he did it. But as I watched him play up there, it looks like a great bargain. And I think that's what they're always conscious of. Can they trust you? And then they don't like to really give out those big contracts that make it tough for him to build that multiple team that can overcome, just like how many now is it now that did not show are not going to come to New England because of
six right now. I think it's six.
Yeah. Six. And let me tell you, some big time guys there that they're missing. And some you go, well, that's not a big deal. Oh yeah, New England finding a fullback is always a big deal. So I think they lost theirs. Now we'll see what they do.
But to Dad's point on that, Ahmed, there they are. They're going to lose Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower, right? Big losses, really awesome players, quarterback to the defense. But those guys aren't going to ruin their team. I mean, they know, Bill knows how important safety and linebacker is to his team. Like Dad said before, is this guy a linebacker or a defensive end? Is he blitzing? Is he dropping back in coverage? I don't know what the hell this guy is. Well, yeah, that's why every year when you look at the roster, they have like 6 safeties and then like 10 linebackers because they're not going to let 1 or 2 guys get hurt and then go, oh, shit, we can't run our defense anymore. So, yeah, it's going to stink that Hightower and Chung aren't there. But I'm just telling you, anybody out there, go look at their roster. They have safeties and linebackers growing on a tree. So they'll be able to manage it. They just won't maybe have the guy that can, call everything out as quickly and all that.
Real quick, I'm looking at their roster. This is a light year for them. They only have 17 defensive backs on the roster right now. I mean, I looked at it once last year. I said this. They had 21 before camp last year. I was going, this is ridiculous. But that's all about it. He's done something that people don't talk enough about. We're always looking for pass rushers. Now, finding a shutdown corner is hard. The real guy. There's just very few of those still in the league. But he built the defense back to front. And I'm not sure about this. I just heard it passing by. And this is something I'll learn before the season starts. But it kind of proves out. Analytics says that's the best way to do it. And that's what I heard. Now, I'm not sure if it's an exact point, but it made sense. I go, interesting. You know why it's interesting? Because you got a really great defensive secondary. It's going to be third down a lot. And that's when they come through. That's when it's tough. They know you got to throw. We're ready for it and all that. And that's when they take advantage of it. Their secondary comes through for them.
Such a solid defense and the strength of their team last year. It's why even when they were looking at starting the season with Jarrett Stidham, an inexperienced quarterback, a lot of people still thought they'd probably win the division. Now they got Cam Newton, who could be a dark horse MVP candidate. And there are a couple questions here about perhaps sleeper candidates for the MVP. We got B. Curtis 112 says, who's your sleeper MVP candidate this season? He said, I'm on the Stafford train. And then we got another one from Jacob Schnur, who says, how good will Josh Allen be this year? He's a long shot MVP if he can clear up the accuracy. So what do you guys think? Let's think long shot MVPs, because everyone can pick the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, players like that, Russell Wilson. But what about the longer shots? And I'm looking here. Matt Stafford's currently got like plus 4,000 MVP odds. That's tied for 12th with Jimmy G. You got Baker Mayfield right there with him. You got Big Ben there, right there with him in that little cluster. So what do you guys think? I think long shot MVP, Chris. I'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is, we got to remember, it's kind of a team award too, right? Like Matthew Stafford, I think is going to be play. If you made me bet, I'm going to bet he plays at an MVP level this year. It's a big year. They got some talent around him. It's his second year in that system. But my big thing I would just go is that team going to be good enough that we're going to consider him an MVP? I would say probably not. So that's going to be the issue there. That's what stinks about the award a little bit. We just give it to the best player on, one of the three best teams in football every year. That's kind of how it goes. Okay, so, yeah, he jumps out to mind. I think Josh Allen, to answer that question, he was, when you read the question, that was the first guy that came to my mind. We just got done talking about their defense. They added Stephon Diggs. He's in the second year of that New England system, and I go, damn, they could be a team that could end up 11-5, 12-4, and he has great stats to go along with it and does it. Carson Wentz is another guy I'm going to throw out there. He would be one, certainly. Trying to think if anybody else jumps out to me. I mean, maybe Russell Wilson could get a fucking vote this year. That would be nice. Is that a dark horse? I just like him to get a vote for one time.
What a mouth.
Those are the ones that jump off to me right here. Dad, you got any that come to mind?
I got tons of things to say here, but I won't curse when I say it. I'll save that for when we play, some competitive games against each other and whatever. Okay, Matthew Stafford can't win it. You know why? Did we lose, Christopher?
Yeah, we lost. He's going to come back. I think he was getting a little bit of a delay there, but honestly, Phil, we don't need him. We can just take over this podcast.
That's right. We could, but Matthew Stafford, even if he played at MVP level, he wouldn't get it. He's a pariah in the overall scheme of the NFL. I hear it on ESPN, Fox, everybody. Oh, he's not that good. They haven't done this and that in the playoffs. I get sick of hearing it. So no matter how Matthew Stafford plays, he will not overcome the media and the way everybody talks about him because they don't see his true talent, which, unless you're really in football, I hate to say it this way, you don't understand Matthew Stafford's unbelievable talent. The other one that can't win it is Josh Allen. Well, his accuracy. It doesn't matter what he does. They just look, the accuracy is the name of the game. Yes, he does miss passes. But, does he make a lot of big ones? Is he great for what they do in Buffalo? Yes. So, dark horse picks. Well, I got one, really, because I just crapped on two of Christopher's. Is Phillip Rivers. He is in a great spot. Now, I heard you talking earlier, if the secondary is there for them, that front for the Indianapolis Colts on defense is fast. And they got some rushers now. Justin Houston, what a shock how he played last year. But they got a lot of fast guys. Injuries destroyed them last year. And so that'll be interesting. Phillip Rivers has a chance to really have an outstanding year this year.
Phillip Rivers, 60-1. Pete chimes in. Current MVP odds tied for 20th. That's a really good one. I hadn't thought of that one.
It is a good one.
Throw him on the dark horse candidate there. All right, Phil, do we have to let you go? We've had you for a while here. You got time for one more?
I want to bring up one thing real quick.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You talked about it a lot. Jamal Adams going to Seattle. Christopher, you did say it. I watched it the other morning. You said it's a win-win for both teams, and it is truly the truth. It is win-win. Seattle's going for it. They want to win the Super Bowl. And now I look at their roster. I studied them yesterday. I'm getting in football mode. I've been really looking at teams, and I write down just pages of things I think about them. But Seattle is trying to win the Super Bowl, and they do it so much with Pete Carroll being an expert in secondary, coaching. He needs that old Earl Thomas, Kam Chancellor. I know you talked about it, but how important they really are to defenses. And Christopher, I told you this. Matt came in and watched the Seattle Seahawks game with me one day. And he's watched them and goes, oh, look what they're doing here. And he tell me, I go, no. And he goes, run the play. And they run the play. Oh, and the point being is great safeties are great leaders, communicators. And Jamal Adams, I think, is that. He works hard and he can communicate. But they know how they really understand the scheme of the defense. And Earl Thomas, just to bring it to the point, he made plays where against the Patriots was where I really saw a lot of them. That he knew where the weakness of the defense was, even though he was here, he was looking the other way to make sure when the quarterback turned the other way, he ran and covered that weakness up and either broke up the play, intercepted the pass, whatever. And that is Seattle. That's why they need just tremendous safety play to really make that whole scheme of theirs work the way it does. And it was really interesting to watch it when I saw it. And Earl Thomas, of course, lost that speed. So that takes away the cover-up part of it. And Jamal Adams, hey, he's got speed, size, toughness. He's Kam Chancellor and Earl Thomas mixed together. That's what he is.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good way to say it, Dad. And, Dad, while you're here, because I know I said this on the show, but Ahmed, you need to hear this because, people who get mad about Jamal Adams wanting a new contract and things like that.
Oh.
Well, I mean, hey, he's clearly the best safety in football. I mean, really, it's him or Derwin James, and I don't think anybody would argue that if you don't have Jamal 1, he's number 2 as far as the safety is concerned. But, the other thing is, there's something in his life that happened that makes him want to make sure he gets a new contract. Dad played with his father, George Adams, number 33. And Dad, kind of give everybody the history of why you think Jamal is antsy to get this new contract because of his father.
Well, yeah, ever since Jamal's been in the league and as soon as he started talking about the contract, I just go, I understand. Yeah, he wants the money and all that. But his father was the first-round draft pick in 1985 for us.
Right.
Yes, from Kentucky. Had a good year. We were rotating a lot of people, whatever. But going into that next year, we're going to training camp. We are really building our offense around the tight ends and George Adams. He's going to run, and he's going to be a big part of the passing game. And I was so excited about him because he's a big target out of the backfield. And we're having like a practice offense against the defense, not tackle. He breaks through that. I'm watching him run. I'm going, look at that big old thing. Run, man, go. And somebody's laying on the ground. He jumped over him. I'm not going to say the guy's name. He reached his foot up, caught George's foot, I think his left leg, and he landed. As soon as he landed, he went, oh. And it was the Bo Jackson injury to the just exactly like it happened to Bo Jackson almost. And, of course, he never came back, and we were fortunate still to overcome it. But that's got to be – I mean, George Adams, a first-round pick, where the talent was real, and it was going to go to the NFL and apply it. And think how he's had to live his life, and his son grows up knowing that. And I think it sheds a different light on Jamal Adams when you put all this into the equation.
Yeah, I had not heard that before, and that for sure it does. And these players are learning, where's my leverage, right? Is my leverage just being the good soldier and eventually getting paid, or is my leverage trying to make it happen right now? PR battle or whatnot. And so that's what some of these players are choosing to do. Phil, thanks again for clicking in here. And Chris was very skeptical that you'd be able to figure out the link. I always believed in you. I knew you could do this.
I was listening when y'all were doing all that. So thank you. You picked up. And once again, my son has no faith. Watch, he'll have sunscreen on. And I did not put any makeup on. But see, that's why I keep the room kind of dark. So you really can't tell how the hell I look.
No, you're right. We can't tell. Good job,
Mike. Hey, and I got every light in this room on, so that just tells you I'm in a dungeon and I love it. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
sounds good.
Man. All you got to do is hit that little red X sleeve on the bottom there. Put your glasses on so you can read it.
It says leave Ahmed. The curses a lot. That's what it actually says.
All right, you did it! Wow, we're in a whole new world right here.
That was amazing. I mean, I'm telling you, I cannot believe how smooth that was. I thought we were going to have to stop the pod and coach him through it for a second and then restart it. I really thought that's the way it was going to go down.
And even when you left there briefly, because you had a little bit of a delay, he was like, "Did Chris just leave?" And I was like, "Just go without him. Don't worry about it." And he just kept on going. Nothing threw him off this whole time.
Yeah.
It was like it's better this way anyway. All right, let's do a few more, Chris. You up for that? A few
more.
Let's do it. Okay. This one comes from English Red. And I think a lot of people want to hear this because you've had some, even though you don't like fantasy football, you have some really interesting theories on players who you think might make a huge impact, and they're normally right. So you got this knack for it. He goes, will you be doing a fantasy football section of your podcast? I know you've said you can't stand fantasy football, but every year you've shared a couple of rookies you felt can make an immediate impact, and it really helped. So are there any players out there, rookies or just first or second year guys that you think, I think in the past you've said Josh Jacobs for the Raiders, and you said they were going to like
I was on Alvin Kamara really early. I was on him as well, but yeah.
Same type player. I know you talked up Clyde Edwards-Helaire before the draft and said he would be a great fit for the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs took him. So that became reality. So what do you think? Any fantasy players out there that you got on your radar right now?
Well, honestly, Ahmed, I think as we get closer to the year, we probably should do some sort of pod of like, again, I don't hate fantasy football. I just hate my friends who text me and call me on Sunday morning asking me who the hell they should play. So therefore my anger boils over to fantasy football there. But fantasy reality, there's something that meets there in the middle. There's no doubt about that. And I think we should at some point, maybe like as we get closer to the regular season, maybe we have that pod where we throw out some guys like under the radar fantasy sleepers to us idiots here in the talking head world. But
Josh Norris, Pete is chiming in saying Josh Norris is definitely going to make an appearance on the pod in August. Pete spoke with him today, so that we are locking up Josh Norris for a pod sometime next month.
But just off the top of my head, okay, here's some ones, just rookies that, first off, Josh Jacobs, get him again for year 2. It's only going to get bigger and better. I really have no doubt there. I know John Gruden drafted him to be that guy. And I know when I saw John Gruden at the Combine, he said, this is the year Jacobs will be ready for the pass game. He told me that right to my face. So there's that little inside info for everybody out there. Now, Edwards-Helaire, Damian Williams just opted out because of COVID-19. I expect Kareem Hunt rookie year type numbers. I think you could see 12, 1,300 yards rushing, 500-600 yards receiving, and a number of touchdowns. So I would say jump on that. Jonathan Taylor with the Colts would be another one I'd tell him to jump on. Yes, no doubt about it. Hey, the first-round receivers, I'm not going to bring them up. They're all, of course, got a chance to be awesome fantasy-wise. But Michael Pittman with the Colts in the second round, I would tell you watch out for him. And then who else am I missing? Michael Pittman. I want to talk about Chase Claypool for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think can be a huge contributor to that football team this year. They got nobody on their roster that's like him, and I'm a huge fan of him. So, Big Ben is an unbelievable deep ball thrower. So that jumps off at the top of my head. And I'm missing, and I'm blanking on his name. It's the receiver from South Carolina that the Raiders drafted. That I would say, watch out for him because he could be Edwards, and I'm just forgetting his first name, Bryan Edwards from South Carolina. 3rd-round pick. I know, hey, Henry Ruggs, we know, there's a possibility there. But this Edwards kid, big, good route runner, sneaky speed, and can break tackles. And I think he'll have a niche within that offense out in Las Vegas to where he'd be one I throw out, real kind of dark horse. But don't be shocked if he shows up for that offense this year and makes a lot of plays.
We got a question from Kawhi808 that's kind of similar here. And so you just talked about a bunch of receivers there. He said, which rookie wide receivers set up for the best season this year? So out of all those guys that you mentioned, and then I'll give you where Roto World has some of these rookie wide receivers. They got Henry Ruggs as wide receiver 44. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 47. Rager is 50. Jerry Jeudy is 53. Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers is 61. So when it's all said and done, which rookie wide receiver do you think has the best year, best numbers?
It's a tough one. All right, so let me just narrow it down because I'm thinking this out too. Okay, like when I look at Brandon Ayuk with Deebo Samuel hurt, having broke his foot, and probably not going to be at 100% to start the season, and maybe not be able to play with the Shanahan combination. I go, watch out. They're going to find ways to feed him the ball, and he's a top 25 pick or top 30 pick. Justin Jefferson, there's no Stephon Diggs there this year. So now it's him and Adam Thielen. Got to think he's going to be a major focal point in the pass game. They just don't have that many weapons really to go to. CeeDee Lamb, baller, superstar, amazing. Only thing I worry about with there is just, damn, they got, Gallup, 1,000-yard receiver, Amari Cooper, awesome receiver, Ezekiel Elliott, awesome running back. I just worry if that hurts how many catches he get. And kind of the same thing with Jerry Jeudy. Like, Jerry Jeudy, I'm just, they got other guys there too that are talented to where, does Noah Fant and Courtland Sutton's production kind of hurt him that way.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick one, I think the two that I narrow it down to as I'm talking this through in my brain.
Yeah. Well, it's always it's always, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to give you more time to think here.
No,
it's always it's always a weird battle of, you want him to be a focal point of the offense. You don't want him to be the only guy because then defenses can double team him. You want the team to be good, but not so good that they're not throwing the ball and coming back late in games. And so fantasy, while it mimics a lot of the reality football, it's not always totally 100%. There, I filibustered for you to give you a little more time to give me your top two.
You are good. You really are. Why we're at this point, we're at an hour and 3. Let me just get an armpit check. How you doing over there?
Oh, my gosh.
Whoa! We got problems. Whoa! Well, Houston, we have a problem. Houston, calling Houston. We have a problem with Ahmed's purple shirt. There is a big stain there. Yeah, it looks like that. Just hold it up there.
It didn't look any different.
It didn't look any different. But I think the two that I go down to are Brandon Ayuk and Justin Jefferson because of I'm a little afraid of the supporting cast with the other guys, like you mentioned, that they just might not get enough touches. I know Shanahan knows how to get guys the ball when they're the focal point. So I guess that's why I lean on that. He was with Andre Johnson those years. He was with Julio Jones. Everybody knows he's going to throw the freaking ball to those guys, and he still threw it, and they had success. Plus, they have a running game and George Kittle, too, to where that's like just the perfect amount to take away some of that attention you were talking about. So Ayuk is one, and then Justin Jefferson's the other, just because it's a simple offense. He can do it all. He's NFL ready. He's been in a similar West Coast type offense that Kubiak runs. And, like I said, I just don't think there's anybody else there other than Thielen that's going to take away the ball from him a whole lot. And I think he'll have a nice package within that offense.
All right, you thought that one was tough, trying to narrow down your number one rookie wide receiver for fantasy football. This one's even more difficult. You're going to be sweating like me by the time you get done with this one. NMJ Felix asks, create a SWAT team of 5 NFL players you would walk with in a zombie apocalypse. You also need a head coach in there. So you got zombies taking over the world, and you've got to form a team, 5 NFL players, and then add a head coach there to help you navigate the brains of the operation to get you through it. Who are you picking on your zombie apocalypse team? I'll give you one that I know you're going to put in there already, Aaron Donald. So Aaron Donald's going in there for sure.
No doubt. I mean, because he's got everything. It's like, oh, you need a guy that's got some quickness? Oh, Aaron Donald's quick as hell. Oh, you need a guy that's as strong as an ox? Oh, he's strong as an ox. Yeah. So I look at that as like you're combining a DB with a defensive lineman and getting like this like specimen of a person. So, yes, he's in the list.
Pete has guessed Fletcher Cox. Would he be?
He knows that. I mean, they know me too well. Of course.
Yeah,
Fletcher Cox. I mean, he's worth like one right hand hook is worth at least knocking off 5 zombies' heads. I mean, that's one hook shot. Boom, gone. Okay. After that, now it gets interesting. All right, I'm going to go Quentin Nelson. Okay, I'm going to go another size guy. Because Quentin, these are guys that I feel like when they were just beating the crap out of somebody, like most normal people would be, okay, I beat the crap out of him enough. Let me pull up. I think these guys are the kind of guys that are like, this is awesome. I actually feel his face smushing in my hand. Let me keep punching it.
You need to make sure they're dead. No, you do. You need to make sure they're dead, right? You cannot move on until that zombie is extinct. 100%.
I mean, if you're gonna make me like, see, this is like, hey, this is where I want to talk to the people, listeners of our podcast. If you're gonna ask me anything about questions of brains with the coach, I'm going with Belichick.
Yeah,
Belichick will be like, I read in a book once that zombies are, they're a little susceptible to, when you shoot them in the right shoulder, it messes up something. Who knows? He'll know nuances.
Yeah, he'd figure
and
something
military
out.
Tactics, right? And then I need one more, right?
Need two more players.
Oh, I need two more players.
Yeah, two more players. You got your head coach there. You need two more players.
Okay. I think after that, I feel like I need a speed guy, somebody with a little.
Well, here's the thing with speed. I'm reluctant, even though I think probably Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox and Quentin Nelson are all faster than me anyway. I'm reluctant to pick a speed guy because if push does come to shove and you got to get out of there, they're going to eat the slowest guy first. Like the zombies are going to get the slowest guy. You don't want to be the slowest out of your crew. No. That's my only reluctance to pick like a Saquon Barkley or some player like that, because I'm like, if we're running out of there, I want you to leave me in the dust.
Yeah, but who the hell said you could beat Quentin Nelson, Fletcher Cox, and Donald in a race anyways?
Yeah, but maybe like if my adrenaline's pumping, I have a chance with those players. The other ones I don't have
you might need a speed guy to be like, oh, they're coming. We need that gun over there. It's 100 yards away.
Oh, that's
can run
true.
And get it and bring it back?
That's true. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
So that's where my head went. Like, hey, we forgot our cell phone and we got to call whatever. And so that's where I feel like I got to find some sort of speed guy to go there.
So who would that be?
I know that's where. That's where I think I might go Michael Thomas, really. Not that he's like the fastest receiver in football.
Yeah.
But I know Michael Thomas will beat the crap out of anybody, and he's fearless, let alone he's got some speed, some arm length and wingspan there to where he might be my speed guy, because it's like he's plenty fast, and then he can fight and be big and tough and strong too. And then I'm going with Khalil Mack. That's it. I mean, that's it. Khalil Mack is, for me, one of the pound-for-pound strongest people I've ever seen or been around. And even when I watch on film, it translates to the football field as well.
The only thing that I agree with a lot of those players, maybe not Michael Thomas because the speed thing. The only thing is I might consider taking Bill Belichick off and putting Greg Williams in there. No rules for Greg.
Hit the head.
No rules.
Hit the head.
Yeah.
Is that,
yes, exactly.
Right.
He'd figure out ways. No rules. You got no rules here. It's a zombie apocalypse. You just got to figure out how to survive. I feel like Greg Williams could do that. I almost thought about putting George Kittle in there too, because he seems so crazy that he would enjoy it, just like those other players that you mentioned. I've got a question here from Matt Caden 44 that says, are the top 3 tight ends in the league Kittle, Kelce, and Ertz? Would you? We're not going to do the top 10 tight ends right now. We don't want to create any more controversy, but just off the top of your head, without thinking about it too much, we got Kittle, Kelce, and Ertz. Are those the top 3 in your mind?
Kittle and Kelce are definitely there. I don't think I'm ready to say that about Ertz.
Okay.
Ertz, I guess, not the best run blocker in the world that way. And compared to those two guys you just mentioned, not a lot after the catch compared to a Kelce or a George Kittle either. Yeah. I'm just trying to.
It's like and last year too. It was like Dallas Goedert. It's like, hey, who's this Dallas Goedert guy? Kind of taking some of the catches, and then he was good. Yeah, he was very productive. I
know.
For him.
No, he's talented. I'm just thinking like, hey, Mark Andrews in Baltimore would be in that conversation. Darren Waller.
I was just gonna say Darren Waller for the Raiders. Jumped up last year.
I think he might be the guy that I would probably go with. I mean,
wow.
I think he's special. That was a great signing by them last year, getting out in front of his year. They saw it. They knew, like, oh, crap, he's going to have a big year. Let's sign him on early on in the season and just get him for like $8 or $9 million a year. That was a brilliant job by Mayock and Gruden to feel that out. I think that's where I might go as my third guy. I feel like I'm missing somebody here. I understand Gronk's there. I'm just trying to, but I'm not going to
Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, good player, but not going to
Jared
go
Cook,
quite
Austin
there.
Hooper.
Yeah, Austin Hooper's really damn good. He'd be in that running. The Evan Ingrams of the world, very talented, and I'm excited about him, but I don't know if there's enough there yet for me to put him in that. So I think I'm going Waller. I think Waller would be my third. Yeah, I'm sorry. And no disrespect to Zach Ertz because he's a hell of a player. TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant are coming up the ranks too. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you like them a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to your to college days here, and a former. Did you play with Roy Williams? You played with Roy Williams at Texas.
Of course.
Yeah,
of
course.
Yeah,
obviously. Jay Pointez says, I'd like to hear about Roy Williams, your time at Texas, and what derailed his career in the pros. He made a Pro Bowl in Detroit, was traded for a haul of picks, and then what happened to him over with Dallas after that. So, yeah, what do you remember about your playing days of Roy Williams, and what do you think of his career arc there in the pros?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little better than people give it credit for. Did it live up to what I would? Yeah. When you get a chance to check out his stats for his career, I'd be interested to, did the career live up to what I thought it would be? No, I won't lie. I mean, Roy is one of the freakiest athletes I've ever been around in my life. I mean, there's no doubt about that, especially prime Roy Williams. He could run with anybody in football in a 100-yard race. He could be in a dunk contest with Vince Carter. Not saying he beat him, but you'd sit there and go, damn, he's special. He could throw a football 75 yards. He was him and Derek Johnson were the two best players I played with in college on our Texas team. And, I think the biggest thing to hit on it, I think Roy got too big. I think that would be the thing I would look at. When Roy was a racehorse at 208 pounds during his junior and senior year at college, man, he was 10-2 in the 100, 4.3 40. He could fly. But, this is a real thing because this happens to some of these type of guys. And when I say these type of guys, I mean like specimen athletes where, as you know, you get older, you get bigger. And he got naturally bigger, but also started to get in the weight room and things like that. And I think he blew up to a size that just was not conducive to his body. That would be my assessment. Maybe I'll get Roy on here one day and we'll let him give his assessment. But that would be, he played towards the end at like 230 pounds. And that's just not the human he was meant to be as far as football is concerned.
That's interesting. Yeah, he's listed here on Football Reference at 215. That might have been when he came into the league or midway through his career. So looking at the stats here, he had only 1 year. I would have thought he had more, over 1,000 yards. He had 1,300, 2006 in Detroit, played all 16 games. It was actually the only time in his career that he played every single game. The only time he went over 1,000 yards as well. And the last, 2 in Dallas, he was at 500 yards, both those years. Final year in Chicago, 500 yards. So yeah, wasn't the peak performance that we thought.
No, it's not as good as even I thought it might have been.
Yeah. So Roy Williams there. There's another question here too, Todd Rice, who said, who was the best wide receiver you played with in your career? And who was one you wish you played with? I feel like maybe we've gone down this road before, but refresh me on that. You just said Roy Williams was one of the best two players you played with at Texas. Yeah. What about your entire career, your best wide receiver?
Yeah, man, Keenan McCardell, Keyshawn Johnson, Joey Galloway, Brandon Marshall, Kenny Britt. Do you remember that name, Kenny Britt?
Yeah.
From Tennessee Titans? Kenny Britt was sneaky, maybe one of the most talented guys I ever played with. But I think the award would go to Brandon Marshall for me. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Marshall, and I it's not easy for me to say because I think the world of Joey Galloway. But Brandon Marshall is just one of those guys that, first off, I think people need to see him in person to really feel the true effect because he's just such a huge human being and such a specimen. But then to be that guy, be able to catch the ball the way he could, be, for a wide receiver, loved physicality. I mean, he loved beating up linebackers and DBs. And then for that size, his ability to stop on a dime and then restart and all that, damn, it's as good as anybody I was ever around. So I think I would probably give that title to Brandon Marshall, yeah.
Yeah. And then what about a receiver that was playing when you played that you're like, man, he would have been fun to throw to?
Wait, hold on. I did play with Randy Moss, okay, at the end of his career, just so we know this. Now, it was the end of his career, so he wasn't prime Randy Moss. This was 2010. That would obviously
Chris
be
Simms slams, disrespects Randy Moss is the headline, picks Brandon Marshall over him. Yep,
exactly. Randy Moss is the best receiver I ever played with, but I'm just talking about what we were talking about there is when I played with him, who was the most talented guy then.
Yes.
And in 2008, Brandon Marshall, that was as good as a receiver I ever was a part of, okay? I know his career wasn't Randy Moss. Randy Moss is the second greatest receiver of all time, in my opinion. So, I would have loved to have played with Randy in his prime. I think that's the guy I look at.
Yeah.
Randy in his prime, holy cow, man. Just throw the ball up and just, 7 out of 10 times he's going to catch it. Doesn't matter. Let alone he's just going to run by anybody there is and all the coverage, he commanded and everything like that. So I think Randy Moss would be that guy. And then just a secret one to me, I would have loved to have played with Steve Smith Sr. I mean, to me, I just feel like we have a very similar personality. We kind of, whatever goes in our brain comes out of our mouth. We're not filtered. We're a little chippy and always stirring the pot. And me and him get along real well off the field. I think I would have loved playing with him. That's
interesting because I'm sure some quarterbacks feel like the opposite. Like, you know what? This player might not be as talented, but he won't be a headache. He won't be a headache like Randy Moss or Steve Smith. You think opposite. You think the other way around.
I do. I always had great confidence in my ability to connect with those kind of guys,
Sure.
off the field. And also be realistic to go if I don't throw Brandon Marshall the ball in the first or second quarter, he's going to fucking yell at me at the sideline. No shit. Yeah. So, you got to realize that's just part of it. These receivers are the greatest. They've been the greatest athletes on every one of their teams growing up. And then they get to the NFL, and they're like, would somebody just give me the ball, and I'll just forget all these plays. I'll make somebody miss and run for a touchdown. And they get frustrated.
I understand it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a signal right there. We have hit the signal that it's the end of the pod because we're an hour and 20 in. And Chris has got to recharge his pod. So there it is right there. I was like, do we do one more or do we end it right there? And I was like, you know what? That's the sign. His AirPods have lost charge, and he's probably delayed once again here. So we've pushed the
You're not
technology.
delayed. I hear you. If there was one more great one, let's do it. If not, let's call it.
I don't think that. I mean, there are some great ones, but it would take it's a lot, So let's save them. Let's save them for another time.
Cool.
Pete says we can pause it. Your equipment's falling apart. We're lucky to have made it this far. That's what I think with this system. It's lucky that we are here. Let's clap it up. Let's end on a positive.
Clap it up, baby. Hey, give us on 3. Okay, you ready? On 3, Put your hands above your head. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Very good there, sweaty pit guy.
There it is.
Very good. And just so you know, my dad sent me a text because he thinks he called you Ahmed when he left the show. And he said, sorry, I think I called Ahmed Ahmad. So just letting you know that he
did. I think he corrected it. It was a little slip of the tongue, and then he corrected it. But I appreciate that. It's not the first time. It will not be the last time. And in fact, I might just change it to Ahmad because I feel like it might even be catchier. So I might.
Well, it's more fun to watch people on TV choke on your name and then not be able to say Ahmad and have to say Ahmed. I enjoy it.
And then I have the upper hand. I'm like, oh, look at this person struggling over here. Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's it. We did it. We did it. Hour and 20-minute pod. Thanks to the homies. All the questions. Continue to send these questions in, everybody out there. I mean, really, we might not get to do it the next pod, but we're keeping tabs of all these things for future pods when we do open up again. So, you can always send questions. I'm going to try to be better interacting through social media immediately and answering questions that way, too. I need to raise my game a little bit. Yeah, don't shake your head at me.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that before, too. But that's it. Have a good weekend. Ahmed, have fun. Stay safe. All right? And we'll be back Monday. You back with me on Monday?
I think so. I'm back.
All right, awesome. We'll be back. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but there'll be plenty of NFL stuff to talk about between Thursday right now when we're filming and Monday. So be good. Ahmed, you're the man. Thanks a lot. Clap it up, baby. Way to go. Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Peace.
Keep it going.
Yo, what's up? Come on, man. Subscribe on YouTube to Chris Simms Unbuttoned Podcast. I need you. Please hit the subscribe button, please.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.